Welcome to Loopholes and Lawsuits.
I'm Mike Vo, and we have
Jamie Schrabeck. As we launch our new video podcast, Loopholes and Lawsuits, let us explain who we are, how we know each other. And Mike, if you would please introduce yourself and explain your work and how you are related to the beauty industry.
sure. Thank you, Jamie. So, my daytime job, for many of you who know me, is as an attorney. Been practicing law for 22 years. My background is in the nail industry. I grew up, folks had multiple nail salons during the 1980s, and then they had manufacturing company. I ran the family business for a number of years, so it was kind of ironic that after I left the family business, I represented and counseled many of our business competitors. Since then, I am the principal attorney at the law offices of Mike and Vo here in Huntington Beach. I work a lot with the nail industry because of my background, representing salon owners, individual licensees when issues come up. So I really look forward to sharing with some of our viewers stories that I've gone through or heard, anecdotal evidence, so they understand that stuff that we're sharing with our viewers is not made up. These are real life situations that come up. More recently, I've been a part of the Pro Nails Association. We started before COVID, and then with the advent of COVID, we had to pivot and address immediate concerns in the nail salon industry. I was vocal against our governor for inaccurate statements of where COVID started. We were very instrumental in encouraging our governor to reopen salons following the shutdown. And then after COVID, I've been doing a lot of speaking engagements through the Pro Nail Association, Nail Finance Conference, the Nail Pro Show, talking to licensees about wage and hour issues, salon issues from an operational standpoint, management operational standpoint. I've also hosted a show during COVID called VidNail TV, where I had the opportunity to meet you, Jamie, and what a wonderful opportunity that was. I mean, it was tough times, no doubt about it, but it allowed for us to meet and kind of share stories of how we can help the industry. And so, what I'm hoping is that through loopholes and lawsuits, I can share with our viewers the challenges that are facing salon professionals, whether management side or licensee side, and what they can do to avoid the loopholes, avoid the lawsuits, and just stay in compliance. So, Jamie, tell us about yourself.
My name is Jamie Schrabeck, and I've been a licensed manicurist here in the state of California since 1992. I'm also a salon owner. After the first 5 years of my career, when I was an independent contractor, I went out on my own and have been on my own ever since. However, for a portion of that time, for 17 years, I had employees, and I'm back to being a solo professional again. I work with clients 3 days a week, and I spend most of my other time in the industry advocating and educating. And the educating part takes me to beauty shows all around the country. The advocacy part takes up most of my other time. That's going to state board meetings, researching new laws, reaching out to my state representatives and other public officials, and just sharing that information that I come to understand with others in the industry, and most of that on an informal basis. On a more formal basis, work as an expert witness for the state of California for the Board of Barbering and Cosmetology when there are cases where a manicurist causes harm to a consumer. And I also do that work for private attorneys, both representing plaintiffs and defendants. And now, this new video podcast, Loopholes and Lawsuits, gives me the opportunity to collaborate with a real attorney who has this background in our industry and someone who I've interacted with only through streaming and never in real person until we met recently at the Nail Pro show. So this entire project was born out of having come to respect you and your take on the industry and your emphasis on compliance early on through the pandemic. And even now, it's more important than ever. Going forward, we have this opportunity to reach a much larger audience, an audience of beauty professionals across the country, even though our perspective is based in nails.
Absolutely. We do have a focus on nails, but the intent of this podcast is to cover multiple aspects of the beauty industry. So if you're in hair, if you're in skin, esthetician, we will address some of it. But for the most part, we'll try to identify issues of the nail salon industry because that is our background. I'm happy to discuss all things beauty related because I think the beauty industry as a whole isn't always getting good quality information. And that's what troubles me and kind of what inspired me to work with you, Jamie, on doing this video podcast. 'Cause I know there are a lot of folks who need accurate information and what do I do with that information? That's really important. So as part of our podcast, I want to make sure that our viewers know that we're not here to give you legal advice as if you were engaging and retaining us. Yes, I am a practicing lawyer, but I am not your lawyer. I'm not our viewers' lawyers. I'm giving insights and perspective and stories from my own personal experience. So, for that reason, whenever you're watching any of our podcasts, you're going to hear me say a disclaimer. Disclaimer is just letting you, the viewers, know that we are not acting in the capacity of your lawyer. And just to make sure that I'm crossing my T's, dotting the I's, I'm just going to read our disclaimer verbatim. And so it goes like this: the information and advice provided today is not intended to be taken and should not be construed as legal advice. No attorney client relationship is formed through any of the discussion on today's podcast. You must consult with your own private attorney for issues that are specific to your situation. Further, all topics discussion are based on the law in effect at the time of the taping. Please make sure to check for later podcasts of loopholes and lawsuits for any changes in the law. So that's important, folks. You'll see this disclaimer, and it really is that. It's a disclaimer, so we can only give you general advice. If you need more specific advice, we'll be happy to direct you to the appropriate resources. So, as Jamie mentioned, she and I got connected through a show called VidNail TV, which I alluded to earlier. It was born during the middle of the pandemic. We were trying to figure out how to help California based professionals reopen, how to navigate the reopening. And it was challenging because for those of you who are California based licensee, you remember the laws change almost every week. There was a new bulletin, there was a new safety this, health this. It was rapidly changing. And guess what, folks? During the middle of all that chaos, California decided to pass laws concerning the handling of employees and independent contractors. So that's something that we're going to be tackling in future episodes to make sure that if you're in California, you understand what's about to happen come January 2025. I believe, and I've seen it, where there's a lot of confusion and even misstatements of the law, I would say. So, what we want to do is make sure that our viewers get the right information from credible sources. Jim, have you seen issues on this as part of the reason why we're doing loopholes and lawsuits?
I have because regrettably that we're so online anymore. Too many people seek information from social media and they will do Google searches. They'll come across a document that looks official. It'll be written in legalese. It's too complicated. They don't know who to ask to determine what is it that they're supposed to be doing. And even if they do understand, no one is forcing anyone to comply. I'm sure you have that situation with clients where you can give them the best advice in the world, but you can't force them to take it.
There's no way to force somebody, but there are definitely ways to persuade them and encourage them because that's when normally clients call me and there's been an investigation, there's been a lawsuit, whatever that situation is. And unfortunately, it is through those events where, especially my clients, they start complying. But we're hoping to prevent that. We're hoping to keep you away from all that. That's the point of loopholes and lawsuits. And some of you are wondering, that's an interesting name, Mike. Loopholes and lawsuits. What were you guys thinking? What do you want to do with that? So Jamie, just briefly, and I know we'll spend future episodes talking about loopholes and lawsuits, but kind of what inspired us to come up with that name? What is the purpose of our podcast here?
The purpose was the foundation of our relationship, we were coming at this topic from two different perspectives. You, as a practicing attorney, and myself, as someone who works with clients, is a licensee myself and a salon owner. I had employees at the time, and that we could come to this industry from these two different perspectives and try to make sense of what is it that we're supposed to be doing. How do we go through this industry, navigating it and being successful without being non-compliant or without exploiting other people or injuring ourselves or putting our entire business at risk or our license? I think that's so much of what we try to do when we're focused on compliance. This is very different from what influencers do and other people who are setting trends when it comes to technique or the artistry in the beauty industry. All the props to those who are developing new techniques and manufacturers who are creating new products. That's all fine and good. But fundamentally, what we do is regulated by the government. And that is something that most people either don't want to deal with or they only deal with it when it's too late.
It's interesting. You mentioned something about there are many influencers and podcasts and shows where licensees can watch to learn new tips and tricks, new products. I would say those type of shows are intended to maybe bring in revenue, increase revenue, right? I'd like to say that what our show will do is help you keep your revenue and keep the doors open. There's a saying I have: it is easy to make money. It is extremely difficult to hold on to it. And our viewers will learn through loopholes and lawsuits how challenging it is. Because if you don't comply, all it takes is one lawsuit. All it takes is one investigation or revocation, suspension of your license. I mean, those things materially impact your ability to make an income. We want to make sure that our viewers have the best advice on keeping your money and keeping the doors open. That's what it comes down to. There are several things that we're hoping to accomplish as part of this podcast. Some of the things that we want to do, we want to identify industry trending issues. And these aren't the new products on the market. These are industry trending issues as it relates to keeping the doors open, keeping your license, preventing lawsuits, preventing investigations. Those are kind of the non-sexy topics most people don't want to talk about. But boy, when it hits you hard because you don't know how to handle it. We also want to provide accurate statements of the law. As something you mentioned earlier, Jamie, you've seen things that just weren't accurate. Or I know many of our viewers are probably hearing things, reading things that are just not accurate statements of the law. What I would like to do, with my experience as an attorney, is give our viewers the actual law and then an interpretation of the law that is based upon my years of practicing as an attorney and in this field. Now, I'm not a divorce attorney. I'm not a personal injury attorney. I'm going to tell our viewers exactly the way I read it. And also, we're going to bounce ideas. And our viewers may see times where you and I, Jamie, we disagree, or we may disagree with other guests. But this is the platform and the forum where we should have those conversations, not when it's too late and we're in the courtroom, because now you're spending all this money to defend yourself. So this is a good place to have those questions asked and to figure out what is the proper way of complying with the law. I also want to make sure that our viewers have an understanding of the law in layman's term. I know a lot of folks get scared of legalese. I'll break it down. We're going to give examples. We're going to give anecdotal evidence, real world stories, both my stories and your stories, Jamie. I think that's going to be very beneficial to our viewers. Practical real world advice. That's what people need. What is a loophole? What's a gap in the law? I think that's going to be a very interesting episode when we talk about that, because I think most people probably don't know the difference. Compliance with the laws, compliance issues. It's one thing to have black letter law or the booklet on how to do things right. But in terms of implementation, that could be a challenge for a lot of people because they don't know how to do that, especially when you're under the constraints of human resources, financial constraints. Mike, I can't do this. Jamie, I can't do this because I don't have the money. Okay, well, this is hopefully where we can share from our experience how you can do these things and be in compliance. Also, periodically, we'll invite recognized leaders in our industry, maybe manufacturers, maybe people who just have a good pulse on what's going on. Other times, we'll invite elected officials on to comment upon why a law was passed or not passed, and maybe implementation. How does that look like when it's being enforced, implemented and enforced? So there's a lot of things that we want to accomplish, and we are going to encourage all of our viewers. Give us your thoughts.
Once you hear the words loopholes and lawsuits, particularly with the word loophole, you're going to see it over and over and over again because many times when someone asks for advice, they're looking for a way to avoid complying with the law. They may not use the word loophole, but oftentimes that's what they're looking for. So that's why I think this podcast is so aptly named. As far as specific topics go, our website is not live yet, but will be soon. We'll be able to accept your questions there. We'll also have a presence on Facebook, not promising Instagram yet, because as we both have day jobs and neither one of us is all that keen living online when we're doing all of these things in the real world, we have more to focus on than just that. We have a list of topics that we've generated, and we're going to prioritize them according to what we feel is most impactful and what's most timely. Initially, some of the topics might seem very niche and specific to only a subset of the beauty industry. That's why we want feedback from our viewers. We want to hear from you so that we know what would best serve you. What is it that you need to know now? So we can address those issues and present our perspective, and you can then compare that to perhaps information you're getting elsewhere or information you're getting from qualified professionals, whether they be your own attorney, your certified public accountant. We want to give you the most accurate information so that you can follow up and be responsible as both a licensee and business owner.
Our viewers can find us on YouTube, our website, email, and I know as we generate more content, we'll also be doing a newsletter, a blog. So there's a lot to develop as we're having more episodes, more content available for our viewers. And so, if our viewers are watching this episode, I believe one of the earliest topics we're going to cover is AB5 because come January 1st, 2025, licensees in California have a significant shift in who is an independent contractor and who is an employee. So, Jamie, is there anything else you would want to share with our viewers as part of this intro episode?
Just that because you're receiving this information via YouTube, we ask that you please subscribe and share.
Great. Awesome. Well, hey, everyone. Thank you for watching this intro episode of Loopholes and Lawsuits. Stay tuned and be on the lookout for future episodes and especially the one episode where we're going to cover AB5. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.